Greetings and salutations, all my friends in internet land. How are you doing? This might seem a little different. It is. We are doing it a little differently this week. I am not Quandra. I am William Honolulu. I have the privilege of hosting the Black USA News Morning Show. And today, Quandra asked me to come in and sit in a little while she's having some technical difficulties getting here, talk to you all about having a community conversation and talk about resources that are available. I will talk a little bit well, I may talk a little bit about gardening depending on how we get into it, because, I do appreciate, I've learned to appreciate plants. When in 2013, my baby sister, Dr. Nicolette Lewis Saint, she gave me a plant and I named it Earl. It was a small sapling, and it was, I was like, okay, why are you giving me this to me? I don't really do plants like that. Blah 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 blah. But one of the things that I did appreciate is that I tried. I kept working with it. I kept doing, what I had to do to get it going. Um, and it got to the point because at the time I was living in an apartment that was below ground. And so what ended up happening is that I didn't feel like Earl was getting enough sunlight. So I put Earl in my car, and put a little seatbelt, put the seatbelt around him and some towels and things around him so he wouldn't fall. And when I would go out, I would take Earl with me. It was like walking my pet while I was driving him. And the reason why I was like, oh, because while I'm out, the car windows are see through and he'll be able to get all the light he needs. And so he kept growing and growing. And then he got big enough where I had to move him out of the small container that she gave to a larger pot. And I got to be honest, that was a lot more exciting than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like, one more thing to do, but it was actually exciting to spend that time and to really see the fruits of my labor kind of play themselves out. And that was cool. And I was like, oh, you know what? It was one summer, and I was like, Earl needs a lot more sun. Let's just give it to him. Let's just have it. So I set him on the back deck, or the back porch, and I was like, because that's where the afternoon sun comes. He'll get bathed in it. So I set him out there for a few days, and I came to get him, and he looked dead. His leaves were shriveled and dried. He wasn't green anymore. He was like gray tan, and I was like, "Oh no, I killed Earl." And I couldn't bear to throw him away just right away. So what I did, I brought him in the house, left him on the counter, and well, I put him in a room, left him on the counter, and kind of forgot about him. Came back a few days, uh, maybe a week, and there were parts of him that were green all over again. And I was like, "What? It came back? No way!" So that was really cool, to see that happen, and the like. That was really cool, and it was kind of a metaphor for some of the things that I was going through in my life. Like I had some really really rough times, and I guess I kind of felt like Earl, like all my leaves were spent. I had been I'm sorry, I don't know what is happening with the system today. Looks like the video is down. The video is down, so I'm just going to continue to talk to you all about what happened with Earl. Um, so where I was in the story with Earl is that uh, Earl had dried up, and I thought he had died, and he wasn't going to be any more use, and that all of his life had gone. And then, given a little bit of respite, Earl came back. Like Earl grew, and not only did Earl grow kind of normally like back to his original size, he continued to grow. He grew new leaves, dropping seeds and stuff like that, and it was amazing. And I realized that that's kind of my story right now. It's kind of where I was. I had gotten burnt out trying to do everything. I got burnt out trying to figure out how to be successful. Hell, what even success meant. Um, Trying to get all of the things, I ended up bleaching my own leaves. I got so caught up into being this person, this leader in the community, and all of those other things that I missed the opportunity just to enjoy being me, to enjoy the people around me, to not be so focused on getting things and achieving things and awards and accolades, but spending some time just enjoying the love of good people in my life. Um, and so, yeah, I'm not a gardener, uh, but I do understand the value of gardening. One of the other pieces is that I was talking on the show with my good friend, Pastor Shannon Wright. And she is an avid gardener. She's a really big believer in urban gardening, not just from a mental health and emotional relaxation perspective, but she believes in it because it helps her save on her grocery bills. She talks about how she was telling us about how when she first started gardening, it was because they needed money. They 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 couldn't, it was easier to garden or more cost effective to garden in her house than it was to continue to spend money at the grocery store. And so on the show, I was telling her about Earl and telling her the story about Earl. And so what she said was, look, Earl needs some siblings. And I was like, you know what? You are absolutely right. So guess what? I mean, I was talking to Quandra about this earlier this week. Yeah, I'm gonna do some urban gardening in my own home. I'm interested in doing like basically I want to grow my own stew. So I mean, I can't grow the chickens and beef or whatever meat I put in it, but all the vegetables. So this summer and fall, I am going to grow some potatoes, some onions, some celery, and I'm going to try to do some spices as well. And as far as spices are concerned, I was thinking, like some basil, some bay leaves. I'm a big fan of thyme. I was looking at sage, and if I do sage, I may do a lot of sage or more than just for cooking, because I also appreciate the healing properties of sage when it comes to spiritual cleansing and things like that. So, absolutely. So, I'm excited. I'm very excited about starting my own urban farming journey. Um, oh, I also want to make grow some potatoes and cabbage too. I love potatoes. I don't know about growing sweet potatoes, but I may try that too. And when I tell you, I'm very excited, especially because I found out how cost effective it is. And so, like for Earl, and this isn't what I think, I'm telling you what I know. For Earl, I went out and bought this like 20-pound bag of soil because again I had no idea what I was doing. I thought like I'd have to replenish it all the time, even though I've because even though I studied biology in undergrad for a little while, and I did really well in my biology classes, and really, and actually, especially on the part about photosynthesis, I was killing the game on photosynthesis. Like I studied that part. I knew that it needed to take nutrients out of the soil, but in my mind, I thought that those needed to be replenished on a regular basis.
the nutrients need to be replenished, but not the dirt. And so there are different ways to do that. And some of the ways that the nutrients get replenished is when some of the leaves fall into the dirt and decompose. So, I still got what 15 pounds, 15 pounds maybe, 15 pounds of soil, and so I'm really looking forward to this idea that it doesn't take a lot. Pastor Ray gave us a kind of a tour of her deck garden. And she had things in contain like me. I have an arrow and a container from the dollar store. So she had dollar store stuff. She had 2 liter bottles that she had converted. And I think in the red solo cups, you all know the cups, the party cups. See, you knew what I meant when I said, you knew what I was talking about when I said party cups. But in the party cups, she was growing corn stalks. Well, starting off some corn stalks, and then was going to transfer them to a larger pot later. Like that is amazing. And she said like she had a dozen corn stalks. And well, no, she had more than a dozen of whatever, however many it was. When you did the math, she would have ended up with 240 pieces of corn, or 240 ears of corn over a growing cycle, and that's just on her back deck. I am really excited about it. And especially with some of my health conditions, I've been trying to eat healthier. Um, I'm looking forward to it. She even talked about she has a fig tree growing in her living room. And I was like, okay, that might be a little bit much for me. But that would be an amazing thing to just have a fruit tree growing. You just walk through the living room and grab a peach or a pear or something like that. Oh, because again, I don't know what kind of fruit would grow in the living room. But just to do that, like it feels, even when talking about it, it feels and sounds so empowering. Like I don't have to worry about the grocery store anymore. Not worry about it, but like that I can just have access to food that I want, that I know what's in it. I know, like literally, not even from farm to table, like from living room to table. Um, yeah, I'm excited. I don't know if you all can tell. I am really, really excited about the opportunity to sit down and have some of my own grown food. Um, and even thinking about it, it's a sense of pride. Like, wow, this will be something I made. Now, Lord forbid it doesn't taste good. We'll cross that bridge if we get to. But yeah, very excited, and also recognizing that there may be some setbacks. That it is still going to be worth it. An opportunity to grow and develop and learn a new set of skills. Yeah, I'm very excited. So, hopefully, Quandra will invite me back, and I can tell you all about my journey into urban farming. Okay, maybe that was a little bit much. Um, but one of the things that my area of expertise is business. And one of the other things that urban farming provides is an opportunity, not just the cost savings of producing your own food and that kind of monetary savings, but it also provides an opportunity, depending on how deep you get into it, for you to take some of your vegetables and some of the things that you grow, whether it's vegetables, flowering plants, or the like, and begin to sell them as a revenue opportunity. Um, again, we're not talking about necessarily, leaving your job to become an urban farmer, but an extra $100 or so a month ends up being $1,200 a year. Ta-da! And so, figuring out what it is that you can do to sell or to offset your business, to see if a business is a viable alternative for you. The cool part is that in urban farming, it's like it is everywhere else. There are a few steps that you have to take, and to figure out what it is that you need to do. The first is taking an environmental scan of the landscape. Normally, in these type of situations, you look to see, well, at least the way I advise is that you look to see what your target customers want. What is it that they want? So if you are selling, if you're going to be selling, let's say potatoes, if you're going to be selling potatoes, then you need to figure out who wants potatoes. A lot of people will start off like everybody wants potatoes. That's not true. Some people who can't take the starch, like diabetics, you know. So that's an actual whole thing. So making sure that you have those as you're thinking through your business opportunities when it comes to farming and selling stuff, you can go to organizations like the Small Business Resources Center. Oh, look at it! There's a squadron in the hills. I was just telling them about resources that they can access when they're looking to, if they decide they want to start their business, selling some of their the fruits and vegetables and flowers and plants that they grow in their space. But I mean, I know this is your area of expertise. That's why I was going to talk about the business part, because I know about business part. Let me also tell you, I shared with them about. I told you about Earl. Yeah, we talked about Earl. I told them the story about Earl, my plant at my house. And so, that's where we are. That's where we are. Just coming in and sitting and chit chat with you.
Well, thank you for. I was having technical difficulty, and it just seemed like the world was locked in 17 minutes.
Actually, you know what? That actually happened to me. The funny part is that we were on here for a little while, and then the reason I don't have a picture of the video live is that my main production device stopped working. Like, it froze in the middle of the show. I was like, oh, no, you won't, not today. So I was like, I got other devices. What you gonna do now? They kept coming for us today, Quandra. I don't even understand why they coming for us. You know what? I do know why they coming for us, Quandra, because we doing the right thing. We informing the people what they need to know. And so the evil portions of the universe is like, not today. And we like, no, yeah, we gonna talk to you. I'm sorry, I'm get all worked up in emotion. It must, yeah. I'm not used to talking to people until 10 o'clock in the morning, so I'm a little edgy right now.
Well, I appreciate you because when I was having difficulty, it was nice to know that I could say, "Help! I'm frozen." So next week, I'm gonna have Catherine Trotter, and I'm gonna also have a health and wellness professional, and she's going to talk about all kinds of different things. So I'll have a 2-for-1er. But remember, we did say that we wanted to do something together, so here we are.
Absolutely.
So today it is the Quandra and Will show.
There you go.
We could talk about a lot of things. What's going on in the community right now. Maybe even talk about Roe versus Wade, and maybe what other things can be coming around, and what we need to be aware of, especially with voting, how important it is. I'm come to the conclusion it's not necessary who you like, it's to protect the seats in the House and the Senate. And if we do not value our presumed freedoms, and we do not go out to vote, you're not exercising your right, and which means if we're not exercising our rights, there are some people who want to take our rights, and you're just giving them a free pass to take our rights. So go out to vote. Roe versus Wade. It could be a very personal thing for me as a woman. However, it caused me to wonder, why now? Why is it so important that Roe versus Wade be overturned now?
Well, I'm thinking, well, not even thinking, what has been identified from a lot of the forces who are in celebrating this victory is twofold. One, the power that the white patriarchal superstructure has been waning. Some of it has been because of the information access that people have. So a lot of their power was steeped in secrecy. They got a lot of stuff happening behind closed doors because there was so much information, and they controlled it, and people couldn't access it. But now that people have access to the information, particularly white cis men,
particularly white cis heterosexual men, are finding their power eroding. And for a lot of them, they feel like their power is being taken from them. Like they literally say stuff like, "My country is being stolen from me." Now, let's ignore the fact that the doctrine of, what was it? The doctrine of destiny, where they literally put into law when they came to when they came to the Native American land, there was literally law that they said that people who owned land, who were non-white and non-Christian, they had no property interest that can be conveyed, meaning they couldn't own the land because they weren't white and they weren't Christian. That is part of the American legal structure. That's one of the ways that we started. And so white men have been able to keep power over time because of these power structures. As they start to see their numbers dwindle, and as they start to see not just the numbers dwindle and their power dwindle, they're trying to get more people out there because they realize their foot soldiers are not. Because I mean, from what I understand, and the research kind of bears this out, while in Black communities and a lot of the conversations about abortion tend to happen around about Black people and in our communities, the reality is that white girls have girls, not just women, but white girls have abortions at higher rates. At least that's what the data bears out. And so to stop them for having abortions, it means that they'll have more babies and they'll have more white people, and hopefully have more control. When you look at, and this is not a new thing. This is one of the philosophies that the Nazi movement was based on. When you saw them marching in Charlottesville a bunch of years ago, one of the things that they were saying is, Jews, you will not replace us. They are terrified of losing power because some of them said, like, what would, if they had basically,
hello?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're hearing me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I was saying, so like if they have been in power and they have done this to everybody else, what would happen if everybody else was in power? The understanding, the idea that absolute power corrupts absolutely, they have experienced that and they have borne that to bear on other people. So why would they want to put themselves in the position? Abusers never want to be vulnerable because they're like, well, I'm just going to get abused. And let's be clear, if abortion disproportionately happened in exclusively Black communities, if this didn't impact white communities, they would put them up like McDonald's. Ooh. But because it's affecting white communities, it's something that has to be stopped. You're killing us, blah, 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 blah. And you know, if you don't think that that's true, what I would suggest to you is to take a look at the people who are supporting pro-life and all of the other stances that they support. One of the ways that people tend to gaslight is that they try to act like what they're supporting is the only thing that matters. It's like, oh, pro-life, anti-abortion. Okay, so what are you going to do to help make sure that the mother has care? You know, are we going to like open up the gates and say, hey, let's get everybody the quality prenatal care to reduce infant mortality across the board? If we really are pro-life, let's do that. Oh, no, that's not my thing. Somebody else needs to do that. I just need to make sure you have the baby. The difference between being anti-abortion and pro-forced birth. Like one of the new cases, not even cases, one of the new incidents that has happened is that there was a 10-year-old girl in Ohio. So once Roe versus Wade was overturned, there was a trigger law. And so that abortions became basically illegal in Ohio overnight. And there was this 10-year-old girl who was raped by a family member and impregnated by said family member, and could not get, and when she found out, she was approximately 6 weeks and 3 days, which meant that she was over the time limit for the abortion ban in Ohio. They had to drive this 10-year-old rape victim, this 10-year-old incest victim to Indiana, a foreign place to this 10-year-old, to get the procedure done. She's actually lucky. Even as bad as the story is, that 10-year-old is actually lucky. Why? Because it may become illegal to get an abortion in Indiana soon. So what that means is that we have a lot of people who are going to be left out. the reality is that making abortions illegal isn't going to stop them. It's just going to make them more dangerous. It's so funny, though, the disingenuousness of the argument around abortion, because when you talk to some of these conservatives, and let's not get it twisted, this is a religious movement. It ignores everything in the Constitution everything in the Constitution that talks about the separation of church and state, all of the context, because the founders realized that a lot of the power from England was because there was a Church of England. Because if I can control not just your life as the government, if I can control your life on the ground in here, and get you to believe that I can control it in the afterlife, then you have things like the Crusades. Then you have things like atrocities committed in God's name. I think one of the things that got said is that send to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and leave to God what belongs to God. And if that be the case, then these rules of morality, that especially the ones that are integrated into the Christian faith, should not be part of our laws. I love these people on TikTok and YouTube. They're called the Good Liars. They do an amazing job of really going to a lot of these Trump rallies and these types of events and having conversations with people, and to really watch them try to go through the mental gymnastics of making two mutually exclusive points make sense is amazing. The one lady was talking about, and again, they got into Roe versus Wade. Asked them about pro-life. Pro-life. She said, yeah. No, and she said, yeah. And then he said, well, taking a vaccine is a pro-life stance. Have you taken a vaccine? She was like, well, no. He's like, well, that's pro-life. Like that is designed to help keep people alive. Well, it's, if you want to get tattoos or piercings, that's on you, but I don't want to have that kind of stuff on my body. It's like, so you're pro-life. I mean, you're pro-choice. And to watch her try to make those have into the same sentence, try to make those two things make sense, was amazing. It really was just amazing to see her try to make it make sense when there was nothing about it that was congruent. That is a really big deal, because at least the way that religion has been developed, or how it appears, at least in America, it literally requires you not to think in many cases. I remember there was a time where I got kicked out of Vacation Bible School. So let me tell you about that. I was 17 years old, just about to turn 18, getting ready to go to college. And back then I had a huge, let me not even say back then. Let me see, y'all who know me know I'm lying. I still have a big problem with authority. But I had been able to rationalize my relationship with God because God was my friend who just happened to be the manager of the entire universe. That gave me an opportunity to not look at my relationship with God as one of a have to, like you must do this, you must do that, like always bossing me around. But it's a friend of mine that I trusted and I respected and I understood his role, and he was trying to help and guide me. So it was cool, but I talked to God like he was a friend of mine. When I prayed, it was like, yo, God, things are, I'm having some challenges with this. I'm gonna need you to come through, or at least just guide me, tell me what I need to be doing, because I'm just confused, blasé, skip. And so that was just the way my relationship with God had developed. And in Vacation Bible School, and I didn't realize this at the time, but she wasn't like she was a biblical scholar. She was a volunteer at the church who got a set of books and was, told to teach us stuff. And this was my last year as part of the youth, and I would have to move to the adult next year. And so when I came, and she was saying at this one lesson, she was like, I think it was like maybe the second day of Vacation Bible School. The Vacation Bible School teacher was talking about the way to pray, and I can't remember what verses she was using, but it outlined a way to pray, and And she was like, this is the way God expects us to pray. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And again, I didn't say whoa, whoa, whoa. I was actually, back then I was very respectful, and a lot, well, at least I remember being a lot more tame. So as she was talking about the way to pray, and I was like, I don't know if this is the only way God answers prayers, then I got a problem, because I've been praying this other way the whole time. And if he's not answering my prayers, then, because this changes. And the way that she was articulating the prayer, it was very ceremonial, very like, let me pay homage to you kind of feel to it. And I was like, I would not want to do that on a regular basis. I'd be like, all right, God, yeah, I can't even, whatever. So I was really trying to understand, because it was inconsistent with everything that I got taught. And so what she ended up saying was like, you know what, well, you should probably just go ahead to the adult class, because, you clearly have thoughts that are more advanced than the text that we're using. And while, after I got older and had an opportunity to reflect, I realized what was happening. But at the time, it was like, oh, just confusion. It was like, and when I got to the adult class, they weren't talking about this. So like, I'm left with no guidance or anything. And so as we are trying to get people to talk about Roe versus Wade, and talking about the role of the Constitution and separation of church and state, recognize that all of us don't have the same experiences. And to tell people that they have to, it's so funny, when we talk about going to other countries, and if you go there, a woman has to, honor their religion, or has to wear, cover their head. We get offended by that. But at the same time, we use the Christian doctrine to perpetuate the laws of the United States. So basically telling everybody else in the country who is not a Christian that, hey, we're just humoring you, because we know that you're going to go to hell anyway. So don't, I don't even know why you're participating in the government. And that's not the way it was supposed to be. It's not the way that it was started. And it's actually stupid, and has led us to where we are. I apologize. You know how I get. See, Quandra, you know how I get. I don't know if your people may not have seen my show, so they don't know that sometimes it just starts the old man ramble.
That is fine. That is fine, because as you can see, I have been going in and out, which I'm going to have to address very soon. But well, the one thing, it hit me with the whole thing about Roe versus Wade. It hit me a little bit, because it was as if they were saying, you don't have control of your body.
But actually, what they're saying, real talk, is that you don't have control of your body. Mm-hmm. It's like, that you can, and you can't have control over your body for these particular reasons, that they don't want you to have control of your body. Because if you don't want to take a vaccine that can save your life and keep you from spreading a disease to somebody else, well, that should be your body, your choice. It really goes back to anchoring into Christian doctrine and dogma, and trying to enforce, at least to me, and enforce that on other people.
Okay, but another thing, it made me think of, remember they had the pilot called Norplant, where they put the 5 years worth of tubing in your arm to as
keep you from getting pregnant if you want social services.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that kind of faded away. Do you think that's going to be coming back as a way of prevention?
Well, I think what's going to end up happening is, do you remember in a lot of these things they have been talking about, there's going to end up being a war. What they really want, and I don't want to keep, I use the word fascism in its proper context, where it's an authoritarian government who is trying to, limit the powers and opportunities for other people. But it is not so. Trying to deal with the conservative movement, and I specifically am not talking about all Republicans, but I'm talking about the the people who are trying to take rights for people. It is this idea, like trying to deal with a 5-year-old. And all the toys belong to them. No, well, 3-year-old. These are all mine. It's like, no, this belongs to your cousin. No, I want it. And you can't. It's difficult to rationalize, because there's nothing rational about it. All you do is you want. You either want something or you're afraid of something. They want power, and they are afraid of oppression. And so everything, it's not, because Clarence Thomas, his concurring opinion basically said that we're not going far enough.
He said, guess what? In addition to the right to privacy, all of these things that are anchored on the 14th Amendment right to privacy, in
Mhm.
addition to getting rid of this right to an abortion, hey, let's also get rid of the right to contraception. Hey, let's also get rid of the right to same-sex marriage. Hey, also get rid of the right to be able to have sex the way you want. But you know what he did not mention in his concurrence? The right to marry interracially. Because Loving versus Virginia was also decided on the 14th Amendment. And if
True.
you think that is bad enough, Senator John Cornyn, a Republican out of Texas, he said, well, since we've started rolling this stuff back, well, why don't we take up Plessy versus Ferguson and Brown versus the Board of Education?
Which is going to be very impactful to people of the global majority.
Yes, and but that is the filibuster, the let's see, the filibuster, the Electoral College, and the Supreme Court are all tools designed, especially the way that the conservatives, and in this case the Republicans as a unit, have exploited these resources. It is designed to ensure that the minority, it's more difficult for the minority to lose power. I mean, think about it. They have an even split. Actually, the Democrats have more people, but they can't get anything done.
True.
And so that is what these systems are designed to do. Let's also not forget that anchored in American jurisprudence, legal systems, social economic theory, and practice is the idea that our system, especially as one of the dominant capitalist systems on the planet, is based on exploitation.
Yes.
You cannot profit exists in the place where you pay your resources, the workers less, the least you can, and you pay you charge your customers the most you can. That is where the profit lies. And so since we keep asking these businesses to be more profitable, they decide that people become less important. And that's where we need to come on the other side and vote. And I mean, in Maryland, well, Black USA News, big ups to Black USA News. I'm gonna show y'all something real quick. Black USA News is in the process of maintaining continuing coverage on the 2022 elections. Take a look at that. We've been doing that. A lot of the interviews that we've done with elected officials, you can go to our website, you can come and check us out there, and on our Facebook page and things like that, because it's important that you all hear from the candidates directly. Because sometimes they on that bullshit. Sometimes they say what you want to hear. We actually saw one candidate who said he showed up very folksy on Black USA News, but everywhere else he was buttoned down. It was like, okay, all right, okay, all right, okay. That's some bullshit, real talk, because like it makes me think about your integrity. And if nothing else we see that at least integrity, the only reason our democracy is barely surviving right now is that there were a few people who had enough integrity not to commit open crimes.
True.
But they are getting more bold. And and the ones who have integrity are becoming fewer. And so it is important that as we go out and we engage our elected officials, that we hold them accountable and we ask them questions, not just the ones who have the best literature or the best commercials. Those are the ones we talk about. And what you need to understand is that this is a psychographic exercise. This is psychological warfare. They want us, they are training our minds to think a certain way so that we just go for the name we know.
So one of the things that I'm still researching, but one thing that I've noticed, okay, so with Roe versus Wade, is going to be pushed into the hands of each state deciding how they want to deal with abortion. So if they're pushing things back to the state, are we going backwards, or do you think we're moving forward? Because we not have different states that supported slavery, and then we had some that didn't, and then some that were kind of in between. Do you see our world going back into the good old days where people of the global majority are gonna literally have to fight for their rights?
Yes.
Or okay, and then for me, as an African American woman,
Mhm.
has finished her master's and is now pursuing my PhD.
Mhm.
What I've noticed is that there is a lot of, I know there's a lot of talk where they're saying when there's a lot of people of the global majority, as I don't say people of color, I say people of the global majority because brown is represented in all spaces.
Mhm.
Do you think that they're going to change or down or degrade the masters because we did have a conversation where you told me
Yeah.
there are a lot of African American women who are out here pursuing their professional degrees, and there are a lot of African American men who are pursuing. So is the master's degree going to be looked at the same, or will we have to continue to be jumping into the more profound professional degree, the doctorate or the ED, or to have a place in the world of business or nonprofit management? Or I mean, should we be alerting? Should we be concerned with that? Because I know with me tirelessly waiting up until 2 a.m. I don't want to be taking something and they say, "Oh, I know you have your master's, but your counterpart has a PhD, and you can't get the job." Or so, what do you say about that?
I think that you are spot on, but it's a little more insidious than you're suggesting. I think there was an episode of the Brady Bunch, say, and this is actually it is going to tie back around. It's going to be wild how it does. And the one of the daughters was interested in a boy, and he wasn't interested in her, and so she said it's probably the freckles. So she did all of this stuff to cover up her freckles, blah blah blah. And then they went someplace, and the boy was there, and the girl he liked had freckles, and so it's like it's not the freckles. He just doesn't like you. And I think that that's what we end up with America and its engagement with Black women, or any place that was colonized through European powers and Black women. And as you say, people of the global majority, because it comes back to the power issue. It comes to, I don't want you to have power. So, yeah, before it was, oh, let me give you you need a master's degree. That's why. Well, now that you have the master's degree, well, you need more experience. That's why. Okay, now that you have more experience. Well, you need, and it continues to go on like that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it still to me, it still plays into the problem I think we have with focus. Mm-hmm. We keep trying to focus on getting what we deserve based on the rules that are articulated, without recognizing that the people who create the rules, they aren't beholden to those rules. One of the best examples is Mitch McConnell with the Supreme Court. When that's the only reason Neil Gorsuch has a seat is because it should have belonged to Merrick Garland. And Mitch McConnell made up a whole rule. And then when it was Amy Coney Barrett, that the election is within 11 months, and so the people should have a right to choose. Oh, that was a lie. You just made that up. But okay. But guess what? Amy Coney, the election was happening. And it is, again, this thing about making sure we now take the table. We need to have, white supremacy is anchored in power, and it is not going to share power with us. We need to, that's why it's important to make sure that we not only have skin folk at the head of some of these organizations, but we have kin folk at the head of some of these organizations. As we see with Clarence Thomas, just because you are Black does not mean that you are aligned with, in touch with, or advocating for the things that are in the best interest of, or what we perceive at least to be in the best interest of the majority of Black people. And that's a real thing. So as this again is why we need to make sure that we have leaders. We need to and hold them accountable. Whether that's corporately or whether that's politically or whether that's socially, is saying like, hey, look, if you are not doing the things that you said, if you are not following the rules, we are going to do something. We're not just going to wring our hands. And that's one of the problems that I have with the way that the Democratic leadership seems to work.
is that we find the moral, the Democratic leadership, they find that they are in the quote unquote right, and then they don't know what to do with that. It's like, look, they're cheating. Like, yes, they are. Yes, we are. And they'll be like, yeah, we cheated. All right. So, yeah. We got, and on the other side, I mean, they had Hillary Clinton literally testing for 10, 11 hours straight. But these Bammers can't show up, and their side is okay with it. That's where we have to get into. We need the power. We need to control the table so that we can make sure that we are not abused by that power.
That's why it's so important for us to get up and vote. It's imperative that I don't care if you haven't voted in 15 years. Vote as if Obama was running back for president. That is what you think every time you run, you go vote. Because if we do not, I mean, today, you know, I'm always do early voting. I always do early voting. And it's a joy for me because I get to see so many different people. And now that I've bought my home, I have a whole different place to vote. So this is exciting for me. But it was funny. The last time I voted, it was so many young voters. They were so excited. They had their cards in their hand and they were just excited. I'm voting for the first time. And then I look at some people who have passed through the door, gotten quite settled, and they're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter if I vote or not. They're not going to look at my vote. And then I look at the dynamics of the Supreme Court. If we don't vote, we get a majority. So right now we have a majority in the Supreme Court, right?
No, we do not.
We don't have a majority.
No, not in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court that's how Roe versus Wade got passed or got struck down. There's six conservative justices on the Supreme Court. 4 of them, if I'm not mistaken, 4 of them were appointed by presidents who lost the popular vote.
Yes.
And so, like, even those seats don't reflect the will of the American people.
So if we were to, as we would say, what Justice Thomas stated, that let's say they went after Plessy or they went after Brown,
they get struck down.
They could get shut down at this point. So
I'm sorry. I want to make sure, especially on the issue around Plessy versus Ferguson and Brown versus the Board of Education. This is what a United States senator said that they should move forward with. The court has not taken that up. But it's important to understand that he is talking about Plessy versus Ferguson was the separate but equal doctrine that said, hey, you don't have to let Black people integrate. It's okay that they have their own stuff so long as it's equal, quote unquote. The problem with, and then that got overturned by Brown versus the Board of Education. Now let's be clear about what he's saying. If they overturn Brown versus the Board of Education, that means separate but equal is okay. That means that we can go back to a legally segregated America. But when you go back and undo Plessy versus Ferguson, that means that their fairness doesn't even have to be part of the equation. That's why I'm saying, like, and to your point, everybody. Oh gosh, we're about to run out of time. But like, to your point, everybody needs to vote. But in addition to voting, it's also time for us to get out there and sit at the table, to show up at hearings about stuff we believe in. Make sure we're educated, because that's how they keep winning. They don't just vote and then wait for somebody to do something. Every time I drive by Planned Parenthood, I see some old decrepit dude standing out there with a sign. But where are we? Where are we standing in front of people's offices? Where are we holding them accountable? We need to not just vote. We need to step in, because otherwise we keep ending up on the short end of it. Who is advocating for you if you ain't advocating for yourself?
Yeah. But okay, so I mean, we are at 9:59, and I want to thank you, Will, because we are going to do some tapings. We're going to talk about some issues, things that we can do as a community. But I do advocate, I do strongly, I just say, please, please go out and vote. It is
Absolutely
very important. Like he said, show up, show out. Go to your community associations meetings, go to those church meetings, go to those rate hikes for BG&E or public transportation or any of those things. Get involved. And I look forward to talking with you in the internet world next Saturday at 9. Thank you, Will.
No problem. You have a great one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.